Good morning, everybody. You are warmly welcome to this webinar by the AAE, Actuarial Association of Europe, which is very cross-disciplinary, cross-professional. We have the pleasure of having, in addition to actuaries, specialists from the European Medicines Agency and European Space Agency. We are, of course, in all areas thrilled by the possibilities ahead of us given by artificial intelligence, but in all areas, especially these ones we are representing, we take great care to use artificial intelligence responsibly. And therefore, we are now doing this webinar on governance of the use of artificial intelligence and risk management on the use of artificial intelligence. We are very privileged to have, in addition to us, these other professions, other organizations, and we hope that experiences from these different areas bring some good experience to others, good thoughts to others on how to approach the use of artificial intelligence in these different areas. We have 3 presentations in this area. You can send questions to the presenters through the Q&A channel that will be monitored all the time. The Q&A session will be at the end of this webinar, 25-30 minutes at the end of this webinar. If there is time between the presentations, there might be a couple of questions even there, but most of the questions will be discussed at the end with all the presenters. This webinar is being recorded and it will be available in ActiveView pages after the webinar, and also the presentation material will be published. But without much further ado, we will move on to the content of this webinar. We will start with actuarial governance and high-risk artificial intelligence systems, in the sense systems are categorized as high risk according to the AI Act. Our speakers will be Bogdan Tautan and Claudio Senatore. They are both vice chairs of the AAE Artificial Intelligence Data Science Working Group, been active for many years in the AAE. Bogdan is additionally the chairperson of the Risk Management Committee of the AAE, and while he is not working with things in the AAE, he is a senior reinsurance actuary at Achmea Reinsurance, and he has background in economic cybernetics and actuarial sciences. Claudio is, in addition to being here in the AAE, currently active in expert group of IOPA, European Insurance and Occupational Pensions Authority, on the ethics of the use of data. And he is, outside of AAE, he is solution leader in SAS Institute. But yes, guys, the floor is yours now, so go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Esko, and good morning to everyone. So I will just share my screen now. My slides, one moment. So I hope all is fine and you can see the slides. So first of all, also a warm welcome to all the participants that joined us today. I understood we have a broad group from different European institutions, agencies, and the Parliament. So a warm welcome to you all. For that reason, we thought it would be wise to give you a bit of a background on the Actuarial Association of Europe as well, so you understand a bit more our activities. Now, the AAE was established in 1978, and it's a representative body of the European actuarial profession. It is an association of associations representing around 30,000 actuaries with 38 members actively engaged. Now, its objective is to be independent and to provide professional advice independently to European institutions and stakeholders across Europe on actuarial matters. Its strategic objectives are to enhance relation with European institutions, promote professionalism, and promote the European community of actuaries. In the light of time, I will just zoom in on the professionalism pillar, which is very important to us and also important for today's webinar. Now, with professionalism, we support the development and recognition of actuarial work in wider fields, facilitate continuous professional development, set a code of conduct with requirements which allow us to remain fit and proper for our services, and maintain also a mutual recognition agreement among individual member associations across the European continent. The agenda for today will run through a bit of an actuarial background and foundations. We'll highlight some governance and risk management practices, and we'll shed some light on the future role of actuaries, as well as afterwards Claudio will discuss some challenges with respect to governance and AI system applications. Now, on the actuarial foundation, as I mentioned, having such a broad audience, which is really great also for our professions and for the collaborations among sectors, I thought getting a bit on the history of the actuarial sciences, at least an important part of it, would have been a nice addition to the presentation. So even before the 1500s, marine insurance was well known. But what really happened is that insurers were actually not regularly paying up claims to policyholders back in 1500s. So in 1575, the Offices of Assurances at the Royal Exchange in London was created, aiming at registering all the policies and having a better span of control. As a matter of fact, an early life assurance policy was given to an individual named William Gibson at a premium of 8%, and it was a policy of 12 months. It was one of the first versions of an official policy that was issued back then. Now, societal developments led to more research in the area of mathematics and probabilities thereafter. Fermat and Pascal, for example, solved the problem of points in gambling, introducing probability theory concepts, with Huygens being the one that actually brought their work to light a few years later. The foundation of modern probability, which is the backbone of our profession, led to many applications and findings. In the Netherlands, the first analysis of mortality data was made and used to value life annuities by Johan de Witt. An interesting development took place in 1693, which was seen often as the creation of actuarial sciences. It might seem odd today, but our profession was initially created by an astronomer, Edmund Halley, which produced a very sound paper on transactions, work on compound interest and survival probabilities. From the beginning, mathematical concepts and theories we apply in our work were relevant to wider fields, not only towards the financial industry, as today's webinars aims to show that. We use advanced mathematics and stochastic projections to calculate a vast array of risks, but without the technology of today, this would have been very much more limited than we have it, and we've seen it in our day-to-day work. So, for example, if we discuss the digital evolution, which actually helped boost our profession, Ever since the years of 850s, when when the Persian scholars were writing manuscripts on creating ingenious mechanical devices, towards the theory of cybernetics and laying foundations of artificial intelligence in 1950s by Alan Turing, computers became extensively used to calculate and predict and provide more accuracies to different mathematical problems. Just to give you an example, a machine would have cost decades ago 1 to 5 million US dollars to execute only 100 to 1,000 operations per second. That would be basically sorting out a tabular data of about 1,000 rows in today's terms. Since we work with such tabular data, mortality rates, stochastic event scenarios, having computing power at our hands is crucial. Now we talk about AI computers, where cost of high-performance operations became extremely cheap, which is very fortunate because it allows our profession to evolve as well. However, it comes also with risk, and we need to stay societal and to be responsibly and transparent, to serve our society responsibly and transparent. If we jump a bit on the topic of governance and risk management and look at our more traditional areas that we are used to, traditionally, actuaries are active in using necessary inputs, modeling or building risk engines, and delivering a desired output for the intended goal. Regulations such as DORA, directives such as Solvency II or the Insurance Distribution Directive are well embedded in our organizations, and we often act under the so-called three lines of defense systems, from a first line of business work towards an actuarial function, performing methodological and validation work, to auditing and complying. New methods bring more autonomy, require adaptation, and involve complex methods. If more opaque models are used, such as the ones of artificial intelligence, we face challenges in explaining, integrating certain practices in our work. For example, a new dimension to our work came a few years ago in 2024, since it is in force, and that is the one of the AI Act. This brings a new dimension on the way we perform our work, especially in the area of AI. While relying on already sound model governance practices, what really seems to draw our attention these days from its risk-based structure is the way we see the so-called high-risk systems as a classification of the Act. The classification of the high-risk system is for us actuaries quite challenging, because we often ask ourselves, are actually actuarial models falling under the scope of the AI Act or not? So there are more, as you saw in the previous slide, more risk categories, but this is of much concern to us, and we try to adapt it as properly as possible. The European Commission's provided more guidance and clarity on this, with classical heuristics, mathematical optimization, or simple data processing and prediction algorithms being left out of scope. So the question remains, is an actuarial AI model low risk, high risk, or maybe even prohibited from given the fundamental rights of our customers? In my point of view, irrespective of the scrutiny that is applied to our work and the scrutiny that we apply given our professional standards, we need to truly adapt and set sound risk management practices, which, if adaptive, would work well in every condition. For example, if we talk about operation practices, and look from a software engineer point of view, development and operations are well adopted practices for our more traditional models. We automate delivery and integration of models in quite standard and robust fashion. But we do see that the DevOps concept does not cover everything. Machine learning operations is rising now within our work, extending the life cycle of DevOps practices to focus more on data, development, and deployment of machine learning models, a bit more as an end-to-end overview. Large language models operations, on the other hand, a subset of MLOps, is effective in managing and fine-tuning large language models. These practices can be often highlighted by a figure of 8 loop, which I like to use to map the way one model can be put into practice. On the data side, for example, we need to ensure robust management, quality, and accuracy. On the operations side, we need to be robust, transparent, and explain well our results. Some examples provided here in this figure. However, if we would look closer in some of these areas, let's say we take an example of from a data life cycle, we see that we as actuaries and our actuarial practices actually can be enhanced by enriching the data that we use until now, which seems to grow exponentially, but yet be limited by the way our work is being done. So with novel methods such as active learning, for example, which allocates customers into groups with similar characteristics, it's a machine learning case which allows human interaction to label and send data points. We can enhance this and enrich our data. Or we could use zero-shot learning methods, for example, to allow us to classify text into data categories the model hasn't seen during the training. Telematics and climate risk areas, for example, also seem to be evolving rapidly. Another good example for data enrichment practices where one could use decentralized networks to integrate real-world data into insurance processes. Think of satellite data here or devices connecting us to our customers. If we look at other areas than the data life cycle, for example, the model development, this seems also to be very important since it touches upon many actuarial services that we provide. Risks of building a models become more obvious. From a societal impact point of view, we need to deal with algorithmic and proxy bias, harmful bias, drifts in our model, or confabulations when dealing with large language models. We have a responsibility as actuaries to ensure these risks are mitigated. We have seen examples in the past where healthcare prediction algorithms resulted in bias and harmful results because of hidden and not well understood proxies, one being highlighted shortly here from a US healthcare case. So these risks and mapping those risks and managing those risks is quite important, and we develop constantly methods to deal with those appropriately. Now, if we look moving more towards the end of my short presentation, if we look at the applications and the future role of actuaries, I believe that the profession is evolving and there are many new exciting areas, topics, and specifically a lot more knowledge needed to ensure we remain fit and proper. I believe also working interdisciplinary across sectors would allow us to grow and allow our societies to be better served. But challenges remain in the area of explainability, complex structure, accountability, and governance of AI systems. That being said, I think these webinars that we have today excites me because we bring the view of different sectors so we can exchange knowledge and become better for our societies. I would like to pass now the word to Claudio, who will give you an overview on how this could be captured and addressed these challenges. So thank you very much. Claudio, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Bogdan. Welcome, and really happy to start and discuss with our guest these very nice, important subjects. So I will briefly present you a more, slightly more applied, let's say, version of the AI governance, obviously in the domain of the actuarial science. So Bogdan, please, could you skip to the next slide? Thank you. So so in my view, in some cases, in some instances, an image can really convey and clarify more than pages and pages of words. And in my view, this is one of the cases. So the AI governance since 4 or 5 years, and since the development of agentic AI, definitely had the big changes. So on the left, we see what more or less was AI governance up to 4 or 5 years ago. So, we can see an ideal actuary that is looking at the performances of a model, of a single model, and that is, monitoring basically how the model was trained, how the model was performing, if the model has a bias. And you can do this for one model, for a second model, maybe for 10 models, applied in different contexts. The point is, since then, this changed dramatically. So the AI governance as it is today can't be seen any longer, in my view, obviously, as a single person monitoring a model, 2 models, 10 models. The AI governance turned in something that is definitely bigger, that is involving many more people, that is involving that is basically involving the entire company. If you think about, for example, the adoption, the rate of adoption that we see today of a simple copilot or a simple chatbot, tools that are used everywhere across the entire company, and this enlargement, this growth in the adoption of the tools, that dramatically brought the level of complexity, the level of the effort that we have to put in the AI governance to much higher levels. Today, AI governance, in my view, is no longer a single person that is monitoring a model, but the AI governance is closer to the concept of cybersecurity than the concept of simple monitoring of a model. If you think about very simple risks that are in our everyday use of chatbot or of copilots, like, I don't know, the possibility of chatting with the chatbot, of accessing information that you should not be able to see, so because of a lack of security in the checks. Or if you think about the risk of uploading a PDF file in your chatbot, in your copilot, to receive a summary of it, etc., and the risk that in that PDF file there might be some virus, compromising the security of your PC, of your company PC. So these are definitely new risks for us. And obviously, as everything that is new, we will need to get used to it, and to them. And definitely this raised the bar of the complexity of the risks and of the AI governance. Bogdan, if you could skip to the next one, please. So, which are the dimensions that we have to observe in this growth of the complexity? There are several. In this slide, we see 7 of them. We will not have the time to go through all of them, obviously. But in my opinion, the first 4 or 5 dimensions are definitely important. And then, in my opinion, the nice thing, or something that is worth to underline about these 5 dimensions, starting from the primary paradigm, finishing to the decision making, in the evolution from a classical AI models that we as actors we were used to use, to apply, to the very latest development of agentic AI. The nice thing to observe, and in my opinion is really worth to underline along this development, is that most of these dimensions basically increased, enlarged the capacity of doing, of producing results, except one, that is basically the decision making. Because obviously with the growing of the autonomy, enlarging the scope of use of these models, increasing the capacity of learning autonomously, these are all examples of dimensions that enlarged, grow along the years, moving from classical AI models to agentic AI. The only dimension that was reduced is the decision making, because obviously the more autonomous are these models, the lower, the smaller is the what a single human decides in the everyday. And here comes the importance of the actuary, here comes the importance of the AI governance, and people that are used to deal with risk, because the human in the loop, not the human on the loop. So a person, people really involved in these mechanisms are key. That's the point. The fact that these models, the agents, are autonomous does not mean that we should not be involved in these processes. And talking about agentic AI, Bogdan, if you could skip in the next one, I would like to bring you a real concrete example of what could be, the work in 6 months, maybe 12 months, This is a GitHub repository that was uploaded something like 2 weeks ago. And here we have an example of 27 agents, of a person. Actually, this was a working group, not a single person, that created a GitHub repository where you have a framework with 27 agents working together, doing each of them a different, something different, working together, aligning themselves, and being able to evolve over time from the errors that they do. So soon we could see similar framework adopted and used in, for example, in the actuarial domain, applied to the pricing or the reserving functions. So 27 different agents performing the entire or a big part of the pricing process or the reserving process. So this is the reality toward which we are going. And so you can easily understand the level of complexity that is completely different since maybe 4 years ago, where we were monitoring single models.
From the moderator here, please try to hurry up. We are running out of time.
Absolutely. Very last slide. Regulation is evolving. It's not easy. The matter is still in development, and we see that it's not easy. This is a concrete example of the regulation that is evolving. This is a concrete example of people that are trying to work and improve the regulation and making it, try to be always updated with the rapid development of the models. Here, there is a concrete difficulty, the concrete issue that we have with with the LLMs, because they are able to understand when you are observing them, when we are studying them, when we are auditing them. And this capacity that is named alignment faking is definitely an issue for an auditor. It's definitely an issue for the regulator. And here in the draft of implementing regulation of the AI Act, we see definitely this risk. This to say that these things are really complex, are evolving really, really rapidly over time, and also regulation needs to definitely make sure to be aligned and updated with these technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Bogdan. Thank you, Claudio. We wait for the questions in the end of this webinar. We are now turning to European Medicines Agency, and we have this great pleasure of having Denise Umuhire and Orsolya Eötvös from the EMA here, talking of use of artificial intelligence in medicines regulation, perspectives on governance and emerging challenges. So Denise is a senior specialist in pharmacoepidemiology and real-world evidence in the data analytics and methods task force at the European Medicines Agency. In her current role, she supports the work of different EMA committees on real-world evidence related matters, advising or leading some of the real-world data studies. And Orsolya is a legal specialist at the General Affairs and Anti-Fraud Office in the legal department at EMA. Prior joining the agency in 2017, she gained experience working at national and international law firms, including Novartis in Hungary. But Denise and Orsolya, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. Just a second. I set the screen. All right. Thank you very much for the nice introduction, and thank you for having us here. We have a couple of slides. First, as Bogdan did, to tell you what we do within EMA, and then Orsolya will take you through how we are then integrating AI into these activities. Apologies for that. I was just saying that I will take you very quickly through the mission and the activities of the agency for the audience who might not be familiar with how the European Medicine Agency operates. And then I'll hand over to my colleague Orsolya to talk to you about the integration of AI in those activities. So as you can see on the screen now, the mission of the European Medicine Agency is to foster and support excellence in the evaluation and supervision of medicines for the benefit of the public and animal health in the European Union. Yeah. So to accomplish that mission, we have the European Medicine Agency doesn't operate in isolation. Actually, several actors play a role. So you have actually the Commission that set the legislation and delivers the decision for authorizing or non-authorizing medicine on the market. You have every country is equipped with its own regulatory agency, and all these institutions collaborate to reach the decision. So how are medicines approved in the EU? There are different ways to do that. There is a centralized procedure. This is what is done via the EMA, and there are national procedures where a product can be authorized by one country. So you see here different routes for putting a product on the market in the EU, either applying through one institution, one member state, or going through the centralized procedure. All of this is regulated, and so there are criteria for these disease areas or indication where applications have to go through the centralized procedure through EMA, or they can go through the decentralized procedure or through the national competent authorities. The logos that you see on the bottom left are the different national competent authorities, so regulatory authorities within each one of the EU countries. And for the centralized procedure, basically you're thinking about one application, one evaluation, and the authorization is valid in all 27 member states of the EU. To perform this work, the European Medicine Agency has different committees that you can see on the right side of the screen in different areas. The committee that in the end evaluates all products, though, is the Committee for Human Medicine Use, and this is for the first authorization of the product, and then there is a committee for post-authorization review. This is the PRAC, which reviews the post-authorization activities once the product is on the market to monitor its use and the safe use. So we have more than 50 EU national competent authorities, and the network of regulators includes more than 4,000 European experts. And we are talking about 24 languages, because once an authorization is granted, all information is translated into all the national languages. So you can imagine the procedure and the complexity of the collaboration in this area. And to make the matters not even simple, the committees are supported by different organizations. So we have what we call working parties and advisory bodies. And what you see here, not that you need to learn and understand everything, but just to show you the complexity of the structure. So we have, for the evaluation of medicine, we look into the quality of the product. We look into non-clinical areas of the product. We have clinical areas, which is basically the efficacy of the product, for example, or the safety of the product. And we have the methodology area where the analysis of the data comes into play and other operational activities. So you see, for example, biostatistics and modeling that come to play a role. So all these areas, we have experts, and all these experts are grouped into different working parties and advisory boards with the aim for these experts provide all the necessary support for the evaluation of a product. And this requires a very structured organization, but also very complex organization where each one of these working parties and advisory bodies has to provide their input in a timely manner for the evaluation of a product in the specialized areas. So you have also the disease areas that have experts in those areas, and these different experts all contribute to answering the questions that the evaluators have when they are looking into a dossier for approving a medicine. So this is what you also see here. So we have different innovation pathways for authorizing medicine. So we advise on different aspects of the product. If you consider, for example, if a product has to be used in the pediatric population, then you have a pediatric investigation plan. This is a specified dossier that includes several areas for how the product can be used in this young population. And you will then need input from the different specialized experts that we saw in the previous slide in this evaluation. We provide scientific advice also during the development of a product. We provide input into methodologies that are being proposed for the evaluation of the medicine, and so on and so forth. So really, again, several entities coming to play a role. This is prior to the authorization of the product, and we see that the same complexity or detailed input is also requested when the product is on the market. So this is how the EMA support the conduct of the evaluation. So you have within each member state, when a product it has to be put on the market, a rapporteur is nominated. So this is the main evaluator of the product, and a co-rapporteur from a different country is also nominated. These two teams conduct the evaluation of the medicine separately, and they bring their conclusions all together during the committee's meetings, which meet every month. And then you have, they discuss their conclusions from the evaluation, they collect input from the rest of the member states who are part of the committee, and they reach an agreement. Within EMA, we have the teams that support this work. So behind the scene, we have the product leads that make sure that all the information necessary are collected on time. And we will see in the next slide that there are timelines related to this as well, and make sure that the procedure is following all the steps that are necessary. And then they also make sure that they link with all the other specialized experts that we saw. So collecting input from different experts in the different areas, so disease areas, population areas, methodology areas as well. So these are the high-level timelines for the initial marketing authorization application. So when the product is a pharmaceutical company, for example, or an academic organization wants to propose a product for approval, they submit their dossier. This dossier is reviewed by EMA staff to make sure that all the elements are completed, and then they are delivered to the rapporteur and the co-rapporteur. Then they have 120 days to review and make their first evaluation. Out of this evaluation, a list of questions are drawn. These are sent back to the applicant, and they have to prepare responses. A secondary evaluation is then conducted, and then the list of outstanding issues are also drawn from it. A number of days are given for the applicant to prepare these responses. Then a final evaluation is conducted by the CHMP, the Committee for Medicinal Product. And then they issue an opinion. This opinion is then reviewed by the European Commission, which issues a decision. And you see that there are a tight number of days within which all these elements have to happen, which means that all the other special experts that we also saw have to have provided their input during all these timelines. So you can imagine the machinery that basically has to operate all in parallel and to bring all the input necessary and lead to this final conclusion. And once the European Commission is issued, this decision is, I will move into the next slide, is then translated into the different languages in the national competent authorities. The decision is adopted, and the assessment report, which is delivered only in English, is also made publicly available. At the same time, a summary of the key characteristics of the product are prepared, and this is what you see. For example, it's the leaflet that you have in your medicine drug that you get from the pharmacy. But additional elements are also prepared in terms of making sure that the quality of the product and the legal status are confirmed and written down and available publicly, because transparency into all these processes is very key for the work of EMA. So this happens for a product before it's put on the until it's put on the market, and then once it's put on the market, an additional number of elements are done again, because the mission is not just to put the product on the market, but also to monitor their use and safe use. So post-authorization procedures also are put in place once the product is put on market. And post-authorization activities include things like safety monitoring. So you have a regular or annual reviews of the product to make sure that the safety profile of the product remains acceptable. So the benefit risk is still positive for the patients. But you can also have additional activities done by the applicants, for example, extending the product into other areas, in other indications, in other populations. All of these activities then are performed. And again, elements of clinical and efficacy, safety are measured, but also the quality of the products. And as I mentioned very briefly, transparency is key. So the assessments completed both by before putting the product on the market, but also once monitoring it and safety issues are all made publicly available. And this is what helps build the trust into the activities that the agency is conducting. I will probably go or skip these elements. So this is what I just mentioned, that the product, we continue to monitor its safety during its use. This is also where we use data such as the real world data to understand what's happening in the real life with the product. And so just to conclude on this slide before handing over to my colleague Orsolya to take you through how AI is then integrated in all this complex procedure, while doing all of this work, we keep in mind the bigger picture. So EMA doesn't operate alone. We are part of European regulatory network. So it's really a team effort from member states, from EMA, from the Commission, to promote good and science-based evaluation of medicine. And we also align with other regulatory authorities across the world. So we work closely with FDA in the US, Health Canada, and other regulatory bodies in other countries. And this not just into the procedure that we do, but also how we do it. So when integrating AI, this is also taken into account. And Orsolya will mention more about that later on. And then again, all of this has to be done in a transparent way so we can continue to build the trust in science and public health. And with that, I will stop and hand over to Orsolya. I can move the slides for you.
Thank you so much, Denise. I think it's very, very nice to link to what you just said, because then on the next slide, we can already see that if we talk about how the agency, the European Medicines Agency, introduces AI to its regulatory work, we have to look at the EMA HMA Network Data Steering Group, because as Denise mentioned, our entire activity is rooted in the collaboration of the network and in the collaboration with the NCAs and other European regulatory bodies. So our work and approach to AI is as well rooted in this, and that's why it's key to mention, and our work comes from the work plan of the Network Data Steering Group, the NDSG. The latest work plan was published about a month ago in March, when also the artificial intelligence work stream elements have been updated. So this is what I'm going to focus in this presentation. And also to mention that the 2025 report was published of the NDSG work regarding last year, was published end of January, and it's also available on our next slide. If we look a little bit closer to what the AI work stream includes, we can see the activities allocated in 3 swim lanes, so to say, on guidance, policy, and product support, tools and innovation, and also collaboration and change management. And also I will introduce a little bit the elements of work in these 3 swim lanes. So the first one up is guidance, support, and policy. And then we can move on the next slide and also jump this one. In this regard, it's important to mention 2 guidance documents from late 2024. So they have been published a while ago, but not that long ago. They are still very, very relevant, and product authoritative guidance on how AI use is enabled in regulatory activities, and how EMA sees its use in the medicine's life cycle. So on this latter part, the first is to mention is the EMA reflection paper on AI in medicine, which is, as regards the entire medicine life cycle, still the most comprehensive EMA guide on how to implement key responsibilities at each of these stages. So this paper reflects on regulatory views on using AI to improve the development, regulation, and use the medicines. So not just through how it's used in the context of the authorization procedure that Denise explained, but regarding manufacturing stages, regarding pharmacovigilance, etc. So and while it's still a reflection paper, we aimed to focus on technical requirements and explain a bit to the ground what we see is important in this area and is important for our stakeholders. The other guidance I wanted to mention is the HME-EMA guiding principles on the use of large language models in regulatory science and medicine's regulatory activities. So this is a guidance written for regulatory stuff, but I think it's very important it might be inspiring and important to know to all kinds of organization, and especially organizations working in the pharmaceutical sector, because it establishes a standard of care that could be guiding to everyone, to sponsors, applicants, and marketing authorization holders, who are also expected to ensure equivalent care and use LLMs with similar standards and based on similar principles. This guide is drafted in a way to establish the principle, but then also explain the practical implementation elements of how the medicines regulators, EMA, and the net, together with the members of the network, see how to implement these recommendations and ensure the safe, responsible, and transparent use of AI during these activities. So I'm not going to go into more details of what the guide, how it explains these principles, in order to be able to talk about other activities regarding this swim lane. To mention other guidance in the pharmaceutical sector applicable to the use of AI, we prepared this slide where to highlight what is everything else that is happening. So as regards manufacturing, there has been a commission stakeholder consultation last year regarding the new GMP annex on artificial intelligence. So it's a good manufacturing practice regarding medicinal products. And when this guide will be finalized and published, it will become the first formal standard in this area to deploying AI in pharmaceutical manufacturing. As regards
sorry from
yes.
the moderator, please try to keep the schedule. Thanks.
Of course. So just to mention then that we have the science working group focusing on pharmacovigilance, and the report on this has also been published. As regards medicinal product development, it's EMA that is publishing guidance and documents like the qualification of novel methodologies and the Q&A on digital technologies based methodologies in support of product approval. And the Commission also published guidance on the interplay between medical devices regulations and the use of AI. In the next slide, I wanted to show a little bit more on EMA activities on innovation. So what I mentioned about the development of products, we don't only have this guidance, but we have advice mechanism to be able to meet with our stakeholders from academia to companies and discuss the portfolio plans, or discuss one innovative product, or provide scientific advice on how to establish the robust evidence on the benefits and risks of medicines using AI. So all these advice mechanisms could also touch up on other areas, but we see that in this new area that they started to focus very much on the use of AI by our stakeholders. And then if we move, I just wanted to mention that as regards the compliance with AI Act, of course there are the ongoing activities and implementation internally, but we also keep our conversation with the European Data Protection Supervisor, who is the supervisory authority responsible for EU bodies and agencies. And the EDPS established an AI Act correspondent network, and also regularly publishes the outcome of the dialogue and of this network activities. It's important to mention that in January, EMA, together with FDA, so our counterpart in the US, the US Public Authority on Food and Drugs, published guiding principles on good AI practice in medicines development, in drug development. This is just the principles are summarized in one page. So it's not a detailed guidance document, but it establishes the foundation of this work and these governing principles that all other bodies and public authorities are expected to base their work on. So it's an initial collaborative work to form the foundation also for future guidance development, and to from the evolving standards can start, and other area specific and topic specific guidance can still go back to this principle. And this is also published on both the EMA and FDA website. And then we can already talk a little bit about the tools and innovation swim lane. And in this one, I would just mention that we have established the network AI tools framework, which provides a possibility between NCAs, EMAs, members of the medicines regulatory network, to exchange tools that the organizations have developed and are using for specific regulatory activities. And this work is along with the work to map these use cases. So what are medicines regulators using AI for in their activities? And in this scanning, it has been clear that drafting and summarization, validation and quality assurance, and knowledge minings are the three areas where regulators are most interested, and they benefit more from using AI. And then we can go to the last part of the presentation to talk about a little bit the collaboration activities, also how we involve our stakeholders in this work, where anyone from the public can join. For example, the yearly HMA-EMA multi-stakeholder workshop on AI. The last one took place in November 2025, so not 26 as the slide says. All the recordings and the agenda and the report are published on the website. And so these workshops provide opportunity to share keynotes on AI state of the art and continue the dialogue with our stakeholders. And the last slide, indeed, and Denise, we can move on, is about our work to comply with the AI literacy requirement of also the AI Act. A set of training has been established and shared along with the network, and there's also plan that this may be open up to the wider audience and our wider stakeholders. So just to summarize our keynote messages in the next slide, it's important to note that in this work and in our approach, we work together with the members of the network to optimize the use of data and AI, focus on identifying the capabilities and the benefits, but also managing and be aware of the risks. So during this work, the focus is on capabilities offering personal productivity, process automation, better insights into data and decision making to allow to a better public and animal health and better regulatory decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Orsolya. Thank you, Denise. That was very interesting indeed. At least some of the topics that are shared with actuaries is the issue of transparency and the tools for creating transparency for AI systems. Mentioning before turning to European Space Agency that there are still no questions in the Q&A area, so you have a great opportunity now to place your questions there during the next presentation, so that they will certainly we will certainly have time to handle them. But now we are turning to European Space Agency. We have Buch Kornreich presenting an impact analysis of AI regulation in the navigation sector. So Ora is cybersecurity auditor in the ESA since July 24. She has more than 2 years of experience as a legal advisor with a master's degree in international and EU law, and further specialized in intellectual property and technology law. But please, sorry, Ora, that we are a little late in the schedule, but then on the other hand, we don't have questions yet, so you have your time for your presentation, no problem. The floor is yours now.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Now sharing my slides. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Then yes, thank you very much for the invitation and for the previous presentations as well. So let me start with very quickly introducing the European Space Agency in the same way the other speakers have done. So ESA is an international organization with 23 member states. We are not an EU agency, so there is a lot of confusion sometimes, but while there is also a lot of overlap in the member states, they are very two distinct organizations. So ESA's purpose is the peaceful use of space, benefiting everyone, European citizens and the rest of the world. We are based in HQ in Paris, but with other sites across Europe, as well as the spaceports in Kourou, French Guiana. So, for example, I am at the Dutch site, Estec, in the South Holland. Sorry. ESA has currently a budget of 8.6 billion euros, which is the equivalent of 15 euros, so one cinema ticket per European citizen per year. So we're good. And we are structured in 4 different pillars spread across different directorates. So we've got the science and exploration pillars. So science, for example, you may have heard of the James Webb Telescope, which we support. or for human and robotic explorations. If you've been following the moon mission the last couple of weeks, Europe was responsible for the European Service Module, which gave propulsion, air, water to the astronauts during the Artemis 2 mission. We've also got the space transportation area, which is the rockets, so Ariane 6, for example. Operations speaks for itself, and technology, which supports all the other programs. Then we've got the navigation directorate, navigation programs. So Galileo, for example, which is the European GPS, Celeste, which is the low Earth orbit support, etc., which is where my team is based. We've got also Earth observation. So when you see satellite images of the Earth, it's likely that they're coming from there. Connectivity, secure communications, people working on 5G, 6G, etc. Commercialization, industry, and competitiveness. That's where a lot of dialogue with industry happens, and then space safety. So the likelihood of a very large asteroid hitting Earth is quite low, but not zero, and therefore there's a lot of work being done to mitigate that if it happens. And that's those people working on that. So the focus here will be specifically navigation. I will not address any of the other activities that ESA does. So a brief introduction also to the navigation programs. So we've got Galileo, which is the biggest program we currently have. It is the world's most precise satellite navigation system, designed and developed by ESA on behalf of the European Union. So you can consider the European Space Agency as the architect, whereas the EU is the owner. There are over 4 billion people using Galileo. We've launched 34 satellites and 4 remain to be launched, and a second generation is incoming as well. Then we've got EGNOS, which augments the US GPS signal and is very used, among other things, in aviation, so for landing, takeoffs, etc. There are 3 satellites in geosynchronous orbit. Then we've got Celeste, so that's the an in-orbit demonstration mission of low Earth orbit, positioning, navigation, and timing services. So that is in order to improve the general geonavigation satellite system. The first 2 satellites of that demonstration launched in March, I think. Yes, March. Then Genesis, which is being developed, and then Horizon Europe and NH 2020, again, EU-linked programs, supporting the future construction and evolution of EGNOS and Galileo, and focusing on R&D. So now that that's established, what does my team do? So we're the Cyber Internal Audit Unit, which oversees the work of cyber internal auditors operating in the supply chain for the programs I just mentioned. So we work with the prime contractors, the subcontractors, and we coordinate around 100 annual cyber audits. Our main objective is the evaluation of the level of compliance of the information security management system and the measures implemented by the different actors. So again, the prime contractors, subcontractors, etc. And we review the requirements established by the EU and the different member states involved, whether that is an EU member state or one of the other ESA member states. And we put special emphasis on the monitoring of international safety standards. So among, the bottom picture, you can see this is the Dutch side, and where we're based as a nice illustration. So among the regulations we oversee is, of course, AI. So where is AI in space related to cybersecurity? Well, it is in the authentication mechanisms, in the encryption methods, it is in satellite software, organizational operations, etc., which means that there are new ethic guidelines, regulations, and risk management standards to consider for us and ensure that our supply chain remains compliant with them. So you already mentioned the EU AI Act. So it does not apply to AI systems or models specifically developed and put into service for the sole purpose of scientific research and development. And it also does not apply while before the AI enters into contact with the general public. So most of the contracts we monitor fall in either of these scenarios, because my team is specifically responsible for the development of the satellite constellation, while USPA, the European Union Space Agency for the Space Program, is responsible for the operational part. So those are two separate responsibilities. And since we don't really deal with operations, we also don't deal with the risks that AI entails when in contact with the general public. So, however, we do have some contracts that do. So we do analyze the risks that come about during the development, integration, and testing activities. Which means we have developed a set of mandatory guidelines for our supply chain to check compliance during the audits, such as whether an AI policy exists within the organization, within the company, whether there are potential critical vulnerabilities in the software used, if said software uses AI, and then clarify whether the software was developed in-house or whether it was acquired, because that brings different risks as well. We also use the framework for AI good cybersecurity practices, which is divided in 3 levels. So basic cybersecurity practices, AI-specific, AI system-related cybersecurity, and then best practices for industry professionals. So we integrate ENISA's questionnaire in our audit framework, which we submit to the auditors in the supply chain. We also use the NIST AI risk management framework. So it's voluntary, but we use its principles, again, in our cyber internal audit. And then we also analyze compliance with the ISO for 2001 standard, so this framework for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continually improving AI management systems within organization. This standard also addresses the unique management challenges posed by AI, and is also very important for integrating AI systems within organizational processes. So again, compliance is analyzed during the audit, the maturity is evaluated, and if any gaps are identified, we issue recommendations to remedy them. So as you can see, AI is quite impactful in the navigation sector, and obviously an evolving issue for risk management. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, you're welcome.
Thank you, Ora. That was very interesting. Certainly, one of the things that was on my mind with all presentations was certainly how do we avoid artificial intelligence or artificial general intelligence going wild and taking our sectors hostage while creating something that we cannot really control. But actually, we have a couple of questions in the Q&A. Thank you for them. So I will read them aloud and let you discuss these issues. The first one is, I'm curious about how large language models use ads to how large language model use adds to and reduces the effort of the medical approval process? Or is that still a too much work in progress to say, and how does one get started practically? And the second one in the Q&A, when it comes to improving regulatory activities through artificial intelligence, meaning better decisions, quicker time to market, better productivity, have you organizations set specific key performance indicators to this? So who will start?
Thank you for the questions.
Denise,
I can give a very quick start, and then I can complete what I'm saying. But actually, both questions are quite connected. So for the first one, if we have started using some LLM to add efficiency, let's say, to the complex procedure that we presented to you, we did. And one specific tool that is in-house developed is called it's called Scientific Explorer. And it's a knowledge mining tool because you could see that there are a lot of procedures, and which means a lot of documents to review. So this Scientific Explorer is a multifaceted AI tool that was developed within EMA, and it's available for EMA, but also for the network, as Orsolya explained earlier on. And it's a tool that allows, for example, to review all previous procedures. So you could explore previous decisions and learn from that, for example. And this is something that colleagues used to do manually traditionally, so opening different procedure one by one and checking elements maybe for reference. And now we can do that much faster. And we're expanding the use case of this Scientific Explorer to go from reviewing assessment reports to looking into additional other procedures. For example, in the future, the pediatric procedure could be involved, the orphan diseases that have been reviewed, and where were the conclusions, where were the learnings. So it's accelerating the effort that traditionally we will do manually, but there are many other tools that are more or less in the same area using LLMs to enable faster activities within the work of the agency, but also the network. And for the second one, if we have KPIs, and of course, just a disclaimer, most of this work, AI is new and it's evolving very fast. So it's a lot of work in progress. So we are not there yet to be able to provide, for example, percentage of improvement that have been observed. This is something that we hope to be able to see in the next 1 or 2 years, but these tools are already being rolled out and used in the network. And for the second question with regards to KPIs, I am not 100% sure. I don't know what you will say, Orsolya, and also on the first one, sorry.
And thank you, Denise. On the first one, because I see that you specifically mentioned the approval process. So of course that is the hardest part where to start from. So and this is why knowledge mining tools are the area which as a safe and low risk additional tool can be started to be used. And for me, the starting point that explains how we go about are the guiding principles that we published together with FDA, because they kind of explains the approach, how slowly and taking into account entirely the context and how the data governance is established, what is the sort of how our data is ready, the qualities of the data, how would it be ready to be used for such tools, and also how can we still comply with our legal obligations, because of course this procedure is highly regulated. So this is how we start about with it, and where we are right now are the knowledge mining tools. And as regards a specific KPI also, because just where we are, we don't have that. We have the we have the starting point, which are the guiding principles, and then we slowly establish the work, looking also what NCAs for very specific aspects they develop, looking how they use it, and then looking how that can be sort of maybe used in the centralized procedure. But also there are differences in the procedure. So I think where we are right now is with the collaboration and the network. We support NCAs who are a bit more able to establish these tools in a specific manner, and we are enabling this innovative phase. And where EMA will get to actually implement it in processes, we don't see now when.
Any other remarks? Just wondering, from the actuarial point of view, we like to see applications in the use of AI that reduce the so-called protection gaps, that make it possible to extend insurance cover into areas that are uninsurable for the time being. But I think it would be interesting to hear from Bogdan, Claudio, on how you see approaches in this area, in the medicine area. What can we achieve with AI? I have learned that the folding of proteins at least has been opened with the aid of AI, which is expected to help in development of new medicines. In the space area, I think there are open problems, other things that you expect to be solved, brought from the dark side of the moon to be better understood.
Yeah, I think maybe jumping
yes,
on the first one with the protection gap, and then passing to Ora, as it's a bit related to that. I think we see more and more applications of parametric insurance within our sector that use a lot of data to derive indexes and correlate those to insurance policies. And to do so, we see the use of satellite information, Earth observations as being really relevant. Also, the thing that I mentioned on the telematics earlier in the presentation, or on the climate insurance, is very much derived from space data that allows you to enhance your actuarial processes, modeling, but also insurance products, at least in our most common insurance sector. But there are a lot of, I think in the past 5 to 10, maybe 15 years, a lot of new startups and initiatives and companies coming up that do a lot of prediction and analysis on different natural hazards, for example, enhancing all catastrophe models that we are used to. So that's one side of flip of the coin that we can really use to reduce the protection gap on areas where information is key, but we actually do not have it, so we have to observe it. So what, maybe also for Ora, to pass on the word to her, what do you see from ESA as developments, or do you see also targeting a broad array of sectors other than only the spatial observations and the satellites and so on?
So I can't speak for the moon or for Earth observation. Those are my colleagues in exploration and in Earth observation. But with regards to the navigation area, some contracts actually forbid the use of AI because either the data involved is deemed too sensitive to even consider using AI and risking leaks, etc., while others mandate the use of it. So especially the ones focusing on innovation or on research and development and figuring out how this actually can be implemented. So I'm not exactly sure how insurance companies might be able to use that data, but that is certainly something, use that data, but that is certainly something that some areas are looking into.
Cool.
Yeah, and maybe also if I can specify regarding like setting specific KPIs, as I was saying, some forbid it, some mandate it, but either way, ESA also has an internal policy and a policy that the supply chain needs to abide by in order to even use AI.
There is a question in the Q&A on accountability, like when we use AI systems and then something fails, who is accountable? At least from the actuarial side, certainly we have standards of actuarial practice, more or less saying that an actuary is always responsible for his or her model and needs to be able to explain how it works. But how do you see this accountability issue when some AI systems are more or less like black boxes? It is and will be hard to understand how they propose or make certain solutions, and then still you need to be accountable for the results. What is happening in this area?
Should I, Orsolya, you want to take it first?
I can take it. I'm not sure the question mentioned regarding clinical, whether I don't think it was focused on clinical development of medicines, but because that's what we are maybe mainly covering, but more on clinical treatment. But what, from a legal perspective, what I can say is that the AI Act was drafted and developed to be as a product safety regulation, and it establishes these rules that the deployer remains accountable and responsible from a legal manner, and that it also establishes how in the marketing change sort of the developer still remains accountable, and that is, of course, and at the end of that chain there is the patient. But as I see it, for whoever put the product on the market or uses it, remains responsible, and that's clear from a legal point of view. But the second part of the question is the key on that: how to enforce this. And of course, I think also patient associations have a very important role in that, to guide and help patients around these new risks. And that's my personal view that really we have to see this through the practical eyes of how we see any other risks and treat it the same way. Also, because if I go back to the example of the clinical development of medicines, we always had black box systems there. And medicine can be a black box system when we are not entirely sure how it works, but we establish evidence on this efficacy and on the results. So from a practical angle, we need to make sure that we have the same full level of robust evidence. And as regards, even if we use an AI in one of the steps, or we use it in the clinical treatment, this is from the organizational point of view to limit the risks, how they limit the risk of any other failures. But then at the bottom of the bottom line is that against the patient, the organization deploying remains responsible, also from a legal perspective. Thank you.
Maybe just to add that when it comes to in our area, medicine regulation, I think at least for all the AI system we've seen so far, human oversight and human supervision of the especially for decision making, is super key. So none of these systems that are currently being used make the decision instead of the humans. They support in the decision making, but the final decision making is really human made. And the system is more really to enhance efficiency and facilitate or allow for more knowledge that the human could accumulate within a certain time of period. But the decision that really in the end impacts the patient or the animal is taken by humans. So at least there we also make sure that there is the security, and the AI risk management process that we put in place in the agency are all around that, to really make sure that there is human accountability clearly defined for each AI system we use.
Any other thoughts on that? At least one of the thoughts is that I think we have much more tolerance for human-made mistakes than mistakes made by machines or mistakes made by some other systems. So certainly it will be a discussion. I mean, when I'm driving my car, I can make my mistakes and nobody really reacts. But if I have an automated car and it crashes, then the situation, the risk tolerance is very different. But actually, there is a question in the Q&A. I think this is quite a lot to the actuaries around here, saying that the question reads, I really like the knowledge management focus in the medical space towards better controlling AI use. How might this be achieved better in insurance? And in parentheses, I'm an actuary and a systems scientist, so I know how fundamentally difficult this is. Are there even tools, or is that the next step? Any reactions from Bogdan and Claudio on this?
Yeah, I can take it. Let me just rewrite. Yes, so Christopher, so let's say there might be, in my opinion, several answers or several levels to answer to your question. So as said today, if you use simply online tools, like also the one offered by, let's say, tools offered by many providers. Now, I don't want to do, let's say, the names, but what I want to say is that the RAG functionality, that is basically the functionality that is at the fundamentals of the knowledge management, that is used in insurance companies, but also in many other companies. This functionality reached really high levels of performance, and many of them are already able today in their basic usage, so without needing to have advanced tools or advanced functionalities, to tell you clearly if the answer or if the questions that you're posing can be clearly answered and stated, are clearly stated in the knowledge base of the documents that they have or not. And obviously, this functionality can be applied to many others. What do I want to say is that today the tools are already good enough to provide a good level of control, in terms of what they know, on what they were trained, okay, and what did you add in terms of knowledge, So we are reaching a level of control that is very high. We have also, for example, functionality, very nice functionality of graph knowledge, so that you can easily browse, you can easily know with very nice graphs which is knowledge structure of your Copilot, of your chatbot, so we are really advancing a lot and at an incredible pace toward this. How might this be achieved better in insurance? Are there even the tools, or in the next step? So in insurance, there are insurance companies that have already implemented and have these tools live, so they are deployed. Some are still for example, in a POC step, but we do have real examples about that. Yes. I think that we have only 1 minute, Esko.
Yes, thanks, Claudio. I think we are approaching the end of this very interesting webinar. So it's been a great pleasure to having you, Ora from ISA and Denise and Orsolya from IMA, talking about our common problems in the use, risk management and governance on the use of artificial intelligence. So many thanks to you for participating in this webinar, and we certainly from the actuarial world wish to be in touch as the problems probably won't disappear in the future, but might be getting more interesting. Thanks also to Bogdan and Claudio for your part from our host association. It was great to have your presentations here. And also many thanks for AAE staff and ActiveView for making this webinar possible. And then, of course, this webinar would be nothing without the participants. So thanks for all of you who have watched this webinar and provided the questions. And as was stated at the beginning, the webinar as such is available through the ActiveView pages, and then also the slides will be available on the AAE pages. But many thanks to everybody here, and hope to be in touch in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Esko.
you.
Thank you all for
Thank
participating.
you.
Thank you.
To all.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.